Okay, so we've dealt with vertical shifts, which is when a graph moves up and down. Phase shifts occur when there is adding or subtracting inside the function rather than outside. So for a phase shift to occur, there has to be parentheses in here in order for it to show that that subtraction is happening inside the sine function. There's no parentheses, there's no phase shift. So what this phase shift does is going to move the graph left and right. So we are used to our sine function starting in the middle and then going up, middle, bottom, middle, like this. What the phase shift is going to do is it's going to move the whole graph either to the right or to the left. Now, if you remember from before, horizontal shifts, again, phase shifts in this sense, are the opposite of what you'd expect. So when it's subtracting inside the parentheses, that moves to the right, adding moves to the left. So for this case, our phase shift is a minus 90. What that means is we're going to be moving right 90 degrees. So you take the opposite of the sign, essentially the minus 90 turns into a positive. We're moving to the right 90. So what that looks like on our graph, we're used to just starting at 0. Now instead of starting at 0, we're going to start at 90 degrees. That's where our new middle is going to be. So now we want to graph an entire period to the right of that. So we know a period is 360 degrees for these graphs, at least until we switch it. So in this case, to find out what our ending point is, we have to add 360 to 90. So if we add 360 to 90, that means our graph is going to end at 450 degrees. Now, just like before, we need to split that up into fourths. So this time our period is still 360, so we're still going to move 90 every time. So this next tick mark is going to be 180, and then 270, 360. So we'll talk about more how to find those tick marks as we deal with phase shifts and period shifts as well. But for now, keep in mind, it still has to split up evenly. Now, amplitude is still 1. So it's going to go up to 1, down to -1, and we're ready to graph. So sine starts in the middle at 90, then it's going to go top, middle, bottom, back up to the middle. Connect your dots, and we have our sine graph. And again, make sure you show those arrows that it's going to go forever to the right, forever to the left. So now let's look at one that has multiple shifts. So like before, I recommend listing everything out. So check for reflection, check what is the amplitude, check for a vertical shift, check for a phase shift. In this case, there is no reflection because there's not a negative being multiplied by cosine and there's not a negative being multiplied by the theta. Our amplitude is that number out front. So our amplitude is 2. Vertical shift, anything being added or subtracted to the function. So vertical shift is -1. That means we are moving down 1. And for the phase shift, again, adding or subtracting inside. So this time it's a positive 180, but remember you have to take the opposite. So it's really moving left 180 degrees. So if it's plus, that means you're moving to the left. Minus would mean you're moving to the right. So now we've set up our graph. Other thing to keep in mind, and this is what we're going to be looking at in the next couple slides, the period of this graph is still 360 degrees. So if we think about how our normal graph divides up, normally we go 90, 180, 270, 360. We're moving left 180 degrees. We're starting at -180. Essentially, that means we're moving 2 tick marks to the left. Again, more we want to think about left 180. Here's our new start. To find out where it ends, well, to find out where one period ends, we're going to add our period, which is 360 degrees. -180 plus 360 is a positive 180. So that's going to be where our one period ends. And then we have to divide that up into fourths. So divide it in half, divide in half again. To get those labeled, if we divide 360 up into fourths, that means every tick mark moves 90 So we're going to have negative 90, obviously 0 at the origin, 90 degrees. So now, everything we were doing the past couple days, vertical shift of down 1. That means the middle of our graph is at negative 1. Amplitude of 2, that means the top of our graph is 2 above that at a positive 1. The bottom of our graph, 2 below that at a negative 3. And now it's just a matter of graphing. So we go to our start. We're dealing with cosine. Think about the pattern. Cosine normally starts at the top. So we're going to start at the top at negative 180. Then move down to the bottom at negative 90. Middle at negative 90. Bottom at 0. Middle at 90. And top at 180 degrees. Connect your dots, put your arrows to show that it is going to keep going on forever in that pattern, and you have your graph.